Vivian, Canada under Stephen Harper was remembered as one of Israel's strongest friends. Justin Trudeau promised Prime Minister Netanyahu a change in tone. What do you think he meant by that?
I think that we'll see in the future. I'm not sure he promised. He stated there would be a change in tone. And so far, Canada under Prime Minister Trudeau has been very supportive of Israel.
We remember that under Harper, Canada took the lead in combating discrimination against Israel at the UN. It boycotted Durban 2 and 3, even before Israel did so. Are we likely to see a continuation of those levels of support?
Based on the comments made by the Prime Minister thus far, I would have every reason to expect that.
Back to Harper. During his time, the Canadians not only did not move their embassy to Jerusalem, but if I understand correctly, they started planning a new embassy in Tel Aviv. Why is this?
The reasons for having an embassy in Tel Aviv at this juncture for Canada really are very focused on business issues. And that was what we were looking at in terms of location, in terms of quality of space, expanding the trade-related relationship and having a very excellent, proper business office in Tel Aviv. And for business development, you have to be in Tel Aviv.
But moving the embassy to Jerusalem would send a very strong statement of support for Israeli sovereignty in Jerusalem.
I think that there might be a case for having a consular presence in Jerusalem. But I think that in terms of pragmatic operations for Canada, Tel Aviv is a good spot.
Justin Trudeau surprised many allies by declaring that Canada was not at war with ISIS, and he withdrew fighter jets as well from the aerial bombardment of ISIS. What can we understand from this about Canadian foreign policy?
That it's changed under Prime Minister Trudeau from what it was under Prime Minister Harper.
In what ways?
The obvious clear that he feels there are important ways in which Canada can contribute, more consistent in his view with what stand or represent Canadian values, and the way in which Canada may have participated in global affairs in decades past, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Earlier this year, there was shock when students at McGill voted to support a boycott against Israel. Is the Canadian public increasingly turning on the Jewish state?
I think that there is a phenomenon in universities. Whether or not the public is turning is something I think that is happening in real time, and we're all trying to sort of nail the jello to the wall. But I do think that we see, not just in Canada, I think we see in the United States, I think clearly we see in Western Europe, there is a trend towards accepting the vilification of Israel and, to a large degree, of Jews.
In diplomatic circles, there can be a tendency to toe the line in treating Israel as the problematic party. Now, as Ambassador of Canada, you were recognized as a very strongly pro-Israel figure. What prompted you to swim against the tide?
Well, firstly, I think that there was a different metric that was applied to me for reasons that I'm still trying to figure out. Strongly pro-Israel, I was often called controversial and outspoken. I reflected under Prime Minister Harper the view of the government. I reflected under Prime Minister Trudeau the view of the government. So any views ascribed or attributed to me were those of the government. The fact that I was able to articulate them in a perhaps clear and strong manner was then taken to be outspoken or to reflect, for some reason, my personal views.
There were reports at the time that you ended your tenure that the reason the Prime Minister chose to replace you was because you were too pro-Israel. Is there truth to that?
I don't comment on leaked reports to the media.